This time on LensVid Talk, new products, new lights, and a virtual production podcast. Stick around.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Lou.
Hey, Ida.
Today we're doing LensVid Talk 23.
Here we go.
Yeah, and we have, as almost as usual, we have some products that we got for review that we're going to basically review in a few weeks. So the first one I want to talk about is this Hollyland Pyro H. And actually, Hollyland has two. This is a wireless HDMI transmitter. And there are two versions. This is the H, which is HDMI. And there is also an SDI supported version, which we didn't get. Most of our cameras are, not most, all of our cameras are basically HDMI supported. So mirrorless cameras, they don't use SDIs. So we got this. It's interesting that we already tested and we're actually using here 3 different Hollyland wireless transmitters. So we tested the 4K and previously I think 2 other versions over the years. They're all very good. I think that we are using them now. I think that the old one is starting to show some aging issues. I think it's also because we have them like packed like very, very close together, so it's problematic. But anyway, this one is supposed to have 2 channels, so both 2.4 gigahertz or gigs or whatever, gigahertz, and 5 gigahertz. Right. So that's the advantage of this over previous versions. The only thing that I didn't like about the specs, again, I didn't test it, I just got it, is that it's not compatible with older models. So you can't communicate this to like the M1 monitor transmitter, which is kind of a shame. But
wonder if that's because they've made
they
such
changed the
advancements,
transmitter,
or they just changed something proprietary.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
so
it's that good.
Yeah, we will see. But I'm glad to get it because we are employing all the 3 that we have currently on this setup, which has 3 cameras. So that's that. We also got something that you have. Maybe show it to the camera.
New, what are these, 950? Yeah, 970, NP-F970 batteries. And these have a power reading or readout. You can see
it has a small screen.
A very small screen, so you can see how much is left. And the best feature is the USB-C place where you can plug in a USB-C cable and charge the battery if you don't have...
It's a USB-C PD. I'm not sure of how much you can charge it via USB-C, and you can take power from it or provide power from it to USB-C supported devices. Hopefully. I'll write it on the screen how much. I think 30 watts, maybe more. I don't know, something like that. So it will be interesting. And it comes in 3 colors. We got 2.
Oh yeah.
So there is an orange one and green one and gray. I don't know. I remember the 3rd color. I'll show it.
Space gray is always cool.
Something like that. So this one is coming. I'm not sure if it's going to be a full review, short. Something is coming on the batteries. We also got a fast opening softbox, but we'll do something about it as well. So let's talk about some news. And we have quite a lot of news since the last time that we talked. So first of all, we have the Godox ML100Bi, which is basically a bicolor 120 watt cube-shaped light, something like that. It's a LED, obviously. Square. I wrote square, so I know. But it's white, if I remember correctly. Interesting. I mean, well, you got.
This is the little one.
I'm not sure.
Relatively small.
Yeah,
maybe like.
I need to hold it in my hand to actually see how small it is, but yeah, it's cool. So that's the new Godox ML100Bi, and we have, talking about lights, we have quite a few of them. There are actually 3 or how many?
1, 2, 3.
3 lights from Ulanzi. And they're all basically Bowens light, like basically 120 by 120 RGB or
right,
C.
right,
It's called 120C, but it's RGB,
mm-hmm,
and 200 by.
right.
So they're all COB lights basically, and we have a ton of them like in the market. I think when I showed this to you, you said, you know, what's special about this, and then I showed you that there are all of these lights have a V mount
In the back.
in the back. Yeah, and they're, if I understand this correctly, they're all mono lights, so everything about the light is in the head. You don't have like a ballast somewhere. And usually on the back, you mentioned that you have the controls, but in
Usually.
here you have the V mount, which is a really interesting design. Now I'm thinking that a 200 watt buy with a V mount, that's cool. You know, that's very useful. Compact, you put the one of the small V mount batteries on the back. I'm not sure how long it's going to power a light, because 200 is, yeah, for the small V mount batteries, it's going to, I would guess it will not last even with 100 watt. No, of course not. It will probably last a half an hour
That's
at
what I was
best.
gonna
Yeah,
say.
something like that. Well, if we get it, we'll see. I know we got a few products from Ulanzi, so we'll have to see. Talking about lighting, this is not a light, but a lighting accessory, and this comes from a fantastic photographer who is also a friend. So James Quantz Jr. And he's been working with Westcott. He's done the light modes in the past, which were basically like attachments for lights with circles, if you like, cutout circles. So you have like a black fabric with round diffusion fabric, like cutouts in the middle, circular ones. And now he has this. So these are for like sort of soft boxes basically, and now he has something for reflectors, so it's much smaller, much more
And it
concentrated.
fits on the end of the reflector.
Exactly. And he made it in a smart way so it will fit and hold on the reflector. It has them, I think it's like socks, like socks for the reflector.
Right.
There are like existing ones which are basically how do you call them, soft diffusers for reflectors. I have a few of them. I don't find them particularly useful, to be honest, but these ones are completely different. These are like effect socks, if you like.
It doesn't work very well, you're thinking, having diffusion out that far? Why doesn't it work well?
Yeah, but maybe they're using a different diffusion material
Right.
that will be more useful. I know. We'll
That
have to
always
see if
plays
we
a
get
role.
it. I'll try and ask Westcott to send us a couple and see how it works. It works particularly, I think, well with RGB lights. So if you have an RGB light, you can play with the lights really cool. So that's
It did look like some type of advanced party light.
yeah.
It really did at that point.
No, but you know, if you want some interesting light in the background as an effect,
Accents, yeah.
yeah, it's an inexpensive addition to your existing like reflector. So why not?
Right.
Let's talk about some other, I would say, different sort of news. So a couple of weeks ago, Sony announced something really amazing: a 247 megapixel medium format sensor. So that's gigantic sensor that I'm guessing is going to at some point maybe come to phase one, like high-end medium format camera, or a Hasselblad like high-end medium format camera. Probably not to the like lower end, like the more consumery. I would call them Hasselblad medium format cameras. But it's very impressive. Nonetheless, it's I don't know who needs this. Probably like art reproduction sort of things.
People who are
Maybe
doing massive
aerial
enlargements.
photography sort of thing. Aerial photography uses a lot of very high end.
I didn't realize that.
Sense. Yeah. So that can be interesting. So yeah, I don't know what the uses are going to be, but it exists. And of course, obviously, industrial and I don't know, military applications can be relevant for this, but who knows? Talking about lights that we discussed before, Nanlite also came up with some new lights. So they have two new Nanlite FC lights. So they have the FC60B or bicolor FC and the FC120B. And what's special about those, because again we have so many, like in the 60 to 200 like range, we have I think hundreds or at least many dozens.
I used to be overwhelmed 15 years ago looking at the selections.
15?
Yeah,
No, 15 years ago.
10 years ago. But now you've got so many different varieties of lights. It's really...
No, the amount of lights that is available
that can do so many different things at the same time.
Most of them by now are in terms of light quality, at least from the like okay brands or known brands, are very good. Like the CRI is good. The output is usually pretty good. The differences are getting smaller and smaller, and differentiating your lights from different lights is very difficult.
My first set of strobes, I think, had fans that would go on sometimes when I was just using it as strobe, not just with the modeling light. So now we have lots of lights that don't have any fan, they just have heat sinks.
Yeah.
And they're perfectly quiet.
Yeah.
Did we have that 10 or 15 years ago?
10, maybe 15. No.
Right.
10 years ago, I mean, what, like completely fanless?
Yeah.
Completely fanless. I think that depending on what, no. I think that like the first light that we got was, I think, a Godox 60, I don't remember, ML60, not ML, something 60. I still have it. It's still working. It's in the other studio. It's when we're doing a review, that's the light that usually is lighting us.
Right.
So yeah, so it's still working. Maybe 10 years after, and
that's good.
It's kind of a little bit noisy if you put it on 100%, but still sort of okay. So yeah. Anyway, so what's special about these lights, the Nanlite FC60 and 120? So what's special about them is that they are powered via, or you can power them via USB-C. And for a 60 light, it's like not that new. For a 120 watt light, that's pushing it. You asked me before what's the max that you can push.
Yeah, I would have had no idea.
Look, I think it's 240 watts, like USB-C goes up to 240. I'm not sure if there is a power brick that goes to 240, and I'm pretty sure that there is no like a battery, like an external battery that can push 240 in one outlet. There are maybe over 200 in several outlets, so you can have 100, 100, and whatever. But I don't think that you can push much more than 100 on one socket or one USB-C. So I know I'm not sure if we will get this, but if I see a review, it will be interesting to see how it works. Tilta has something interesting that I think both of us saw. It's an electronic suction cup set.
Yeah.
So we've tested a suction cup from iFootage. Manual one, which worked very, very well. We tested it on a Canon shoot in the Dead Sea, like last year. Worked very well. Didn't have any issues with it, but we used it for a short while. We didn't use it for like long car chases or anything. It was just a short like drive through the hill or something. And so what we're talking about here is something super professional where you attach the suction cup and...
Well, if there's any fluid or dirt that gets introduced into the suction area, there's a little motor in there. I think you have to press it, but it will then clean it. And there's a port where it will exhaust the water and the little dirt particles.
Whatever to
keep that bond on the surface. It's pretty cool.
No, but it's very cool. What I liked about it is this is nice, but I like more the fact that it's supposed to constantly monitor the suction like level. Yeah. So the level of pressure will not drop below
just like your tires when it gives you a warning.
So it's self-filling tires. So this is a self-pressuring, whatever. Interesting. I know I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it's already available, if there is a pricing. I know. If there is, I'll
Everybody
put.
that's suctioning their expensive red cameras to the side of their car is going to want to upgrade to this, I'm
Yeah.
sure, for that extra insurance factor.
No, that's for sure. No, I was pretty like shaky when we shot the Canon commercial, especially
scary.
since the cameras were not ours.
No,
We shoot with Sony, so we got, obviously the whole video was shot on Canon because you don't shoot Canon with Sony. So we used Canon cameras and they were not ours, and we put it on on the front of the car, on the front part of the car, and on the side afterwards. It was like, will it fall? It was okay. Nothing happened, but yeah, that was like kind of frightening for a moment. Anyway, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is a video that Fstoppers did about a new plugin for, I think it was Premiere, right?
Yes.
Or DaVinci. DaVinci or Premiere?
No, it was DaVinci. You're
DaVinci,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was a plugin for DaVinci. I'm not sure about Premiere. And it's basically video facial retouch. But I mean, it's retouch for video again. It's not for stills.
Right.
That's the interesting part. So it's from Retouch for Me. We did a video about their some of their retouching tools for Photoshop. Worked very, very well. I'm very impressed with what they have. This one is going, a couple of steps further with video. And from the video that Fstoppers did, what was your?
I was really impressed. I mean, it feels like a big leap forward in terms of this sort of technology.
Yeah.
We're all used to clicking on the face retouch or whatever is on our Zoom meetings, and it kind of makes your face just like really muddy. It doesn't really do a good job. This is like several levels above that. I mean, it's and you're walking around and it's handling the changing in lighting.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult to spot anomalies if there are any.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if this is like the future of this sort of technology, that we're going there very, very fast, much faster than I thought. I thought it's going to take a couple of years at least until we have something that is like good enough to actually use in a
professionally.
A commercial.
Right.
Yeah, commercial.
Yeah.
So that's certainly interesting. And if you're interested in that, I'll have a link.
He was only barely adjusting the controls on it, and are several controls.
That was my impression when we tested the stills version, but obviously video is a different thing. So maybe we'll have a chance to test it as well. But actually, it's you, because if it's DaVinci, as long as they don't have a Premiere version. This is something that you found. So talk about it.
The 3200 megapixel camera going into space. I think they want to identify how light shifts due to gravitational masses or mass in the universe. So it'll kind of help them understand, I guess I'm not going to do this justice, but they're going to understand. It'll help them to understand how light shifts in the universe. It's probably going to factor into how old the universe is and all that kind of stuff, and our basic understanding of, and dark energy and dark matter. Right.
So basically, it's a scientific experiment masquerading as a camera.
That's right. That's right.
No, I'm kidding. Obviously, we have a lot of high resolution cameras in space. We had the Hubble Space Telescope, and I think we now have, we have the James Webb, which is different. It's not visible light, and we have others.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not the first. And fun fact: the Hubble Space Telescope, as far as I can remember, was basically a spin-off, if you like, of a military, basically telescope. You can call it a telescope, but it's basically a spy satellite technology which the U.S. government, the Pentagon, developed.
And then just turned it in the other direction?
They made another one and gave it to NASA and turned it to the other direction, more or less, I'm guessing. It's not exactly the same, but it's basically the same technology. So that's at least that's the story that I heard. So that's a fun fact. Talking about space, and this one is something that I found. Nikon has announced that it's going to develop the next moon camera, because in 2026 NASA is aiming. Let's see if this will happen, to go back to the moon with a project called Artemis.
Artemis 3.
Yeah, exactly. So if this will happen, they're going to basically mod a Z9, a Z9, and have a space camera or a moon camera, if you like. And if you remember the first moon camera, if you
They used film, I assume.
of course, and in the first moon landing and the subsequent few ones, they used Hasselblad cameras, and some of them were left on the moon. Some of them, I think, were returned. I'm not sure. The film obviously was returned to Earth, but I think some of the cameras were not, obviously to preserve weight, because
Yeah.
So that's that. But it's interesting that they chose the Z9. So the funny thing is that in 2026 the Z9 will not be that new of a camera. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to modify it probably, and I'm wondering whether they'll be able to use essentially the same
what, buddy?
body, or will they put that body inside something to protect it?
The moon has a lot of issues, especially
Yeah.
dust.
Right.
That's the biggest issue, and I think a lot of electrostatic issues as
Right.
well.
Interesting.
So I know I don't remember if it's the moon, the Mars, or both. So the whole electrostatic stuff. I think it's both. So that's Nikon. Adobe. Oh, that's a completely. We talked a little bit about AI with the retouch, video retouch, but this is a whole AI thing. Adobe is basically announced, or there is a Bloomberg article saying that Adobe is now buying footage from photographers. I'm not sure if every photographer or just specific ones or whatever, but they're basically buying video footage from photographers that they want to train AI.
Right.
Specifically, obviously,
Video footage.
AI models to create AI technology or AI.
Help them populate the system.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, and the average price is going to be like $3 per minute, something like that. Which I don't know what I think about it.
I wonder what that is compared to the current value, like the price that you would get for your work if you submitted it to one of the
you're talking
stock
like
websites.
stock websites? I know.
Would you make more money this way or the other way? I bet
Probably
that
stock.
I would bet that Adobe would offer more money to do this, because this is going to be the last time this happens.
They only need it once, basically. But I'm not sure that they're offering more, to be honest. But they need more. They need a huge database, and they obviously have specific requirements of what they are wanting.
What kinds of
I think
shots,
they mentioned facial expressions
Yeah.
and all sorts of stuff like that. So, yeah.
It sounded like people were going to be
Hands. They need
filming-
fingers.
that people were going to be filming GIFs for just very basic stuff. But yeah.
No, fingers. That's the
right,
biggest problem
'cause
for
it's so
AI for some
difficult
reason.
to do. Yeah, they give you 6 fingers. They have a finger
Exactly.
coming out of your palm. All kinds of weird stuff.
Maybe images of puppies not coming out of each other.
Right. So they're going to train the computers better. Train the AI better now.
Yeah. So that's, I know, to be honest, I told you before, I'm not sure what my thoughts about this whole thing is. I mean, I'm not sure if I can stop it, but it doesn't mean
about
that
AI or about paying for video? For the
both,
model?
basically, because again, as you said, you train it and then you don't need footage anymore. So you're basically getting paid for not doing your job anymore in the
Or
future.
paid to make your own job obsolete.
Which is not, but again, the alternative is what some other companies are doing, which is not paying you and stealing stuff that is already online. So,
Right.
I know.
It won't affect, or it will affect documentary filmmaking much less, because that needs to be real.
Yeah, of course.
So there'll always be a niche
There will always be, I think,
that requires
situations which, as you said, yeah,
the real thing.
yeah. So that's Adobe, and the last one is something that we already discussed in a previous LensVid talk. We talked about Chris Williamson, which is a YouTuber, and he has a very successful podcast.
Yeah.
And he did a BTS, behind the scenes video of how he shoots some of his podcasts. Very high end productions.
Yeah.
I really liked what he did. He's shooting with like I remember. I think they weren't like Alexas, but probably C300, 500, something like that. Like video
More than what most people use for a podcast.
Exactly.
A lot more.
More than what we use here. So stuff like that, but it's not just the cameras. It's more like the lighting and the place itself. Like they're usually taking like very large rooms and putting a lot of very relatively complicated lighting, and they record like 3 of them in a row, so which is not very easy. We're shooting 2 of these in a row, which is not that easy. So. But in this case, he did a behind the scenes of a series of shoots that he did in a virtual production environment.
Right.
Which is, first of all, a great idea. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. What I thought about it, and then you say what you thought. I thought it was a really great idea. I'm not sure that the production value that he got from it, and especially the realism aspect, is as high as he was expecting. Again, I'm not sure what he thought about it. This is what I think about it. I think it's nice, but it looks a bit like strange, not truly realistic in a way. I mean, obviously it's not realistic if you have like a picture or...
Depending on what you're depicting on that screen.
But none of the things that he put looked really realistic, and then you say, okay, so what's the point? Like, I know, it's like a lot of money, a lot of investment putting into something which looks like a little bit strange. I know. I mean, it's probably better than a green screen done okayish, but is it $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 better? No. Not in my view, at least. So
it's an incremental improvement in the overall production value of but maybe too much for a podcast.
It's not that I don't think it's too much. Maybe if it's done better, it would have been like really wow.
So you think the image is not realistic looking enough? Didn't they do exactly the same thing that they did in the Star Wars movies?
No, I don't think that they invest...
Same quality of large screen LEDs.
There's more to that. There are a lot of aspects.
Sounded very complicated to
very
set it up.
There are a lot of aspects to that. You need the wall itself, but it's not just the wall. You need the lighting done correctly.
Right.
And sometimes you also integrate things in the room itself, which are physical. So you have a physical chair and you can have a physical plant, but behind you, you have a forest. And if you somehow and the shadows and all sorts of things need to align correctly.
Right.
And even if there is a slight deviation from that,
it'll feel off.
Something will feel off.
Yeah.
And when you're doing super high-end, like movie level things, then you have the time and the budget to do it perfectly. Not always, by the way. I mean, sometimes you have the budget, but it still comes off bad. But at least you have the option to do it correctly if you take the right people and give them the right time and make sure that it's done right. In this case, I would feel, better off with what he did before. But maybe, you need to try some new stuff. So he definitely did, and kudos to him for doing that.
And someone else in another type of production might pick it up where he left it off.
Yeah, for sure. So that's interesting.
Or if he ever needs to interview 10 football teams at the same time, that might actually be an appropriate size studio space.
So that's everything that we have for you. Thank you, Lou.
You're welcome.
Be sure to subscribe, and what else? Check out the full article on LensVid. And we'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.
Bye.